Hey everyone, bienvenue tout le monde. Just waiting for everyone to get here and then we'll start. All right. So welcome everyone to the 5th of 6 Leadership Town Halls. I want to begin by acknowledging that I am with you today on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabeg people. And with that, a reminder that for those of us who are settlers, there's a great amount of work of learning and sharing truth and seeking justice that is our work to do. So I am here tonight just to be a host, and what you can expect is Chad will be welcome to give a 10-minute speech followed by questions and answers and then a 1-minute closing. In terms of housekeeping, there is interpretation. Si vous voulez entendre en français cette soirée, you can click the button that says interpretation at the bottom of your screen. The chat is closed for the night, not to discourage conversation, but to make things simpler on our end. So please put your questions in the Q&A and they will be moderated by our lovely staff here. Please be reminded that we would like to keep this a safe and comfortable environment for everyone, respectful discourse toward candidates, moderator, staff, and each other, of course. So with that, please, Chad, I will turn off my camera. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Amita. Bonsoir, good evening, and thank you to everyone who joined us. Merci à tous ceux et celles qui nous ont rejoints ce soir. I am joining you all from Chachage, Montreal, traditional meeting place of many First Nations peoples. I'd like to begin by introducing myself to those I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet. I'm a community engagement expert with over 10 years of experience in politics and social development. I'm an experienced professional communicator, and I've honed my skills in diplomatic influence and government relations through my work in nonprofit organizations and as a policy advisor at the City of Montreal. J'ai toujours mis l'emphase sur l'application de mes compétences professionnelles à aider les communautés dont je fais partie. En 2012, j'ai mené la mobilisation étudiante autour de l'enjeu de l'accessibilité à l'éducation pendant le printemps érable au Québec. J'ai aidé des centaines de personnes à amasser des fonds pour la recherche sur le cancer et la maladie d'Alzheimer's pour l'hôpital général juif de Montréal. J'ai soutenu l'autonomisation des citoyens et j'ai dirigé un projet de développement économique qui a contribué à la revitalisation d'un ancien quartier manufacturier, à Montréal. J'ai également de l'expérience électorale. Lors des élections provinciales de 2018 au Québec, j'ai obtenu le 2e meilleur résultat de tous les Verts québécois dans la province. Tout comme ma colistière Anna Keenan, je fais preuve d'une capacité constante à prendre une idée et la mener à bien. Et j'ai toujours cherché à avoir un impact positif, durable sur ma communauté. I've always done my best to empower the people around me. And at this time in my life and at this time of turmoil within our party, I believe that my skills and those of my running mate are what the party needs to get back on its feet and return to talking about the issues that matter most to Canadians and Canadians alike. Issues such as bold climate action, achieving proportional representation, and developing an economy that places people's well-being above endless profit. To do this, Anna and I have released a 6-month plan that you can see on our website, Keenan-Walcott.ca. The plan is centered around 3 main pillars: renewal, responsibility, and results. We need to begin by renewing public and member confidence in the party's ability to achieve external impact, as well as to restore stability in the party's finances. Within our first 6 months, we will focus on building relationships with civil society organizations with whom we can rely on policy priorities, and work with them to run 2 to 3 issue-based campaigns we can move the needle on. We will also focus on developing a renewed strategic plan, complete with a strong fundraising strategy that would leverage the momentum from the leadership race and to launch a sustaining donors program, which will invite past donors and those who have been inspired to recommit to the party for 1 year of monthly donations. On responsibility, we want to establish a strong, positive, trusting culture within the party. We believe this can be achieved through the confirmation and alignment of the mandate of Federal Council, the Fund, staff, the leader, and shadow cabinet. Anna and I have been speaking with members of Council and the Fund. And many have expressed to us that they're feeling overwhelmed, undervalued, and maligned. These people are volunteers who dedicate more than 40 hours a week to our party on top of their regular lives. They express to us that they are stressed and burnt out in many cases. As such, the series of resignations that have happened of late, though unfortunate, are certainly understandable. In a situation of high stress and low support, it doesn't take much to set off the powder keg. Therefore, in order to address the issue of fatigue and long-term stress, we would propose to Federal Council and the fund members to take a month-long break from council and committee meetings if elected. That until the new year. During this collective period of rest, we would schedule one-on-one relationship building meetings with all members and encourage them all to do the same amongst themselves. This process will be useful in order to develop positive working relationships and trust with each member, and allow us to develop an understanding of the sources of tension that currently exist in these bodies. And it will also allow us to identify common areas of common ground that we can use to move forward with and build on to stabilize the party. Once council reconvenes, we'd like to bring in an external evaluator to examine the party's function and see where there's areas of mission drift that can be amended. To do that, and use this report to propose solutions to realign these bodies on their respective and complementary mandates. Following this, in order to review the external evaluator's report, we'd like to organize a 5-day retreat with the Federal Council, the fund, staff, leadership, and a representative selection of active EDA presidents. The purpose of this retreat would be to do the work of building relationships and trust, review the evaluator's report, and do the work of solidifying governance protocols and decision-making processes. Ultimately, we need to get on the same page regarding how we function and move forward together. The final theme of our 6-month plan, and the one that we are actually most excited about, is the getting results part. If elected on November 19th, Anna and I will be launching a new capacity building program for electoral district associations called the Green Leaders Network. We know that Greens have the strongest social and environmental policies in Parliament. But in order to see those policies become reality, we need to increase our weight in Parliament. Anna and I both had success in our past electoral campaigns because we came to the table with campaign skills that we learned outside of the party. We think it's time the Green Party put the necessary resources into our membership to ensure our candidates have success by providing campaign training to EDAs across the country. The benefits of running this campaign school go further than simply allowing EDAs to run high ambition campaigns in 60 to 100 ridings in the country. It will position the Green Party of Canada as a resource for civic education within communities across the country. Cette initiative permettra à nos membres d'acquérir des compétences transférables qu'ils pourront appliquer dans leur communauté entre les élections afin de faire avancer les initiatives locales qui sont importantes pour les communautés dans lesquelles nous vivons. Il peut s'agir d'initiatives de toutes sortes, allant de l'installation d'un nouveau dodan ou de panneaux d'arrêt à la création d'une allée verte ou un jardin communautaire. Le résultat final sera que les communautés dans lesquelles nous sommes actifs verront que les Verts mènent par l'action. When residents ask our members how they were so knowledgeable about moving forward local initiatives, they'll be able to proudly say that they learned these skills within the GPC. I believe that this will allow us to sustainably grow our base of support by demonstrating that Greens are present even between elections, affecting positive change in the community. Anna and I will actually soon be releasing our policy priority document based on 3 main pillars: bold climate action, deepening our democracy, and the well-being economy. Now, many people have asked us what we mean by the well-being economy, and they've also asked us what we mean by visioning a world beyond capitalism. Well, this evening, I hope to address some of those questions. To me, a well-being economy is a system in which everyone is able to attend to their basic needs, such as housing, health, food, and the ability to pursue their passions. I would like to start by explaining the well-being economy by speaking to issues that I've had firsthand experience with: healthcare. The reason I'm able to be here speaking with you all this evening is because of Canada's remarkable healthcare system. The fact is, I was born with a malformation of my heart. This defect required me to undergo an experimental operation at birth in order to correct the issue, or else I would die. Luckily, thanks to Canada's universal free healthcare system, the Montreal Children's Hospital, and the wonderful work of Dr. Trevenkov, I was able to have this experimental procedure and go on to live a full and active life. Now, we all know that Canada is in the middle of a major health crisis. Hospitals across the country are being pushed past the breaking point. Frequent cuts and lack of investment in our healthcare system have forced hospital staff to burn out. Doctors and nurses have been pleading with the federal government for more investment for years. More and more hospitals have had to close their emergency rooms on multiple occasions, yet no substantive investment has been made. Worse yet, provinces under conservative leadership, like in Quebec and Ontario, have been hinting at a move towards privatized healthcare, thus creating a two-tiered healthcare system. Dans le cadre d'une économie du bien-être, nous veillerons à ce que ces investissements appropriés soient réalisés dans les soins de santé et de l'éducation aux soins de santé, afin de disposer du nombre nécessaire de médecins et d'infirmières pour éviter les problèmes de pénurie de personnel et de surcharge de travail que nous connaissons aujourd'hui. A well-being economy would also move to reduce the work week to 4 days, to allow people to spend more time with their family, pursue their passions, and have the opportunity to be better informed about the politics and policies that affect their lives. A well-being economy means working towards the elimination of poverty, establishing housing as a right. It means protecting the disability community and committing to tax reforms that allow for a more equal society. Nous devons prendre les mesures climatiques audacieuses et avoir le courage de réglementer et de taxer l'industrie des combustibles fossiles. Ce faisant, nous devons penser aux travailleurs de ces industries et de travailler avec les communautés locales pour planifier une transition juste et globale. Nous devons soutenir les municipalités en investissant pour accroître leur capacité de mettre en œuvre des mesures climatiques et à développer des réseaux de transport interurbains actifs plus solides. To achieve these things, we need to ensure that we reform our electoral system and implement proportional representation at the federal level. This is the only way we can ensure that green policies cannot simply be reversed by a conservative majority government. The road to these ambitious objectives can only be paved by electing 12 Greens to Parliament. Anna and I have a solid plan to achieve this, as well as the experience, skills, and knowledge of how to get it done. We are ready to lead and bring renewal to the Green Party of Canada, and I hope to further prove that tonight. Merci encore une fois, and I look forward to answering all of your questions.
Thank you. Now moving on to questions. We'll start with questions that were submitted beforehand and then move to questions that were posed tonight. So your first question is, what is the one issue that makes you green?
What is the one issue that makes me green? That's a really good question. I think for me, what drew me to the Green Party was our grassroots policies and our ability to affect change at the member level. What makes me green is a search for and my desire to fight for a stronger democracy. You know, environmental policies are important. Social justice policies are important, but we need to have strong communities and informed populations in order to move those things forward. That's why I've dedicated my life to trying my best to empower the people around me so that they're aware of the policies that are being done on their behalf and they know how to affect the change in their lives. I honestly believe in that if I can empower everyone around me to reach their full potential and fight for the causes that they believe in, that fall within the green values, that we'll have a stronger democracy, and therefore we can push forward strong and ambitious climate policies. So that I think is what makes me green, my desire for a strong democracy.
Are you comfortable that the investigation into inappropriate behavior within our party is actually being undertaken and will be completed in a timely fashion?
You know, this comes up a lot, and I think that we need to address these issues head on. I am confident that council is doing what they can to push these things forward. You know, recently with the recent scandal that we had at the beginning of this race, I think, you know, council made the right decision in pushing for an external evaluation to find out exactly the cause and try to find solutions for the issues of harassment that we've been seeing and bullying that we've been seeing for a long time in the party. As leaders, Anna and I will take these issues seriously, and we'll put the resources behind them necessary in order to solve the problem through restorative justice. But restorative justice requires accountability. It requires that the people or persons doing the harm to acknowledge that harm has been done, and then to take steps towards correcting that. So I think that our party is doing what it can. Can we move faster? Sure, we can always move faster, but we also have to move diligently, and we also have to move with care. So I have faith in council in its ability to resolve these issues. And as leader, I look forward to lending my hand in the experience that I have to help resolve these problems thoroughly.
Does the Green Party consider animal agriculture to be an important threat to the environment, as well as human health and animal welfare? If so, what resolutions or policies will you, as leader, encourage and support to change or eliminate animal agriculture in order to mitigate these threats?
So we have to consider that we have to pay more attention to animal rights. Animal rights is a large issue that's often debated within our party. And I know we have a multitude of policies that push us towards a more, I want to say vegetable-based, non-animal-based diet. I think we can do the work of pushing those forward to have to be the vanguards of moving towards a more vegetarian and vegan diet for our populations, and do the work of educating. I know that there are many activists, at least here in Quebec, doing a little shout out to Nat Perron, who is a strong advocate for animal rights and veganism. And as leader, I want to give those different groups within our party the necessary resources to make their policies mainstream within the party, and again, continue to have the Green Party be a bold vanguard of progressive policies, both in agriculture and in other areas of environmentalism.
Given that the GPC is quite a long way from forming a government or achieving official opposition status, what is your vision for the role of the party in advancing the green agenda on the national political scene in an impactful way? And what priority issues will you focus on in doing so? And by what means would you propose doing so?
So off the top, I mentioned kind of the three policy priorities that Anna and I have been working on: proportional representation, bold climate action, and a well-being economy. I think the first one we would have to drill home is proportional representation, absolutely. Anna and I have talked about this at length, and this would be a non-negotiable circumstance or a non-negotiable issue for us if we were to support any government moving forward. How to push these policies forward, how to get them implemented, we absolutely need to elect 12 MPs to Parliament. As I said before, we have a plan to do that. It involves building the capacity of our EDAs, 60 to 100 to start, and then growing that capacity over a number of years. Until we can achieve that, Greens need to be able to do what Mike Morris and Elizabeth May are doing and work across the aisle to bring people to our cause. You know, Mike's been doing an amazing job with the Canadian Disabilities Benefits, which just passed second reading with unanimous support. And we need to find our allies in other parties, whether it be the Liberals, the NDP, the Conservatives, or the Bloc. Find allies that we can work with and ensure that we can push forward these policies until we can elect enough MPs to form official party status and start throwing our weight around in Parliament. We also have an opportunity to align ourselves with civil society organizations and use their talking points and use their momentum to, well, use our resources to elevate those talking points and that momentum to put pressure on the government to move forward on ambitious climate change and the social programs that we need to have a healthy society.
If you or Anna is elected leader, how will the other one of your team work with the elected leader until you have the opportunity to run for co-leader positions after the Constitution is amended?
Well, if either of us are elected, we will appoint the other as deputy leader right away. So one of the powers of the leader is to be able to pick their shadow cabinet and a deputy leader or more. Anna and I have discussed this at length, and we have agreed that we will elevate the other to deputy leader status and operate in a co-leadership model. So that means that we would consult each other on decisions and act as co-leaders despite the constitutional lack of co-leadership. During that time, we will work with members through our normal policy process to develop a form of co-leadership that works for the members and has the majority support. Pass that resolution at a first AGM and then have it passed again at a second AGM to entrench it in our constitution.
Sport shooting and sustenance hunting is enjoyed by many Canadians and First Nations communities all across Canada for longer than Canada has been a country. How will you, as Green Party leader, bring progressive policies to Ottawa yet support these traditional rights of Canadians?
You know, Anna and I had a really good briefing by a former member who is a guns rights advocate. And that person explained to us the current rules on the books for gun laws. Canada does have quite strict gun laws. I would say that, you know, I don't know that we need to necessarily make more progressive laws to regulate sports shooting or the occasional hunt. I think those laws are in place. What we do need to do is address root causes of gun violence, right? Try to prevent young people from joining gangs, trying to prevent, well, that in particular, and gun violence all around. So investing more in mental health, investing more in resources to keep kids out of those programs, get them in leadership programs, get them in sports. But I think there is certainly a place for sports shooting. There's certainly a place for hunting when done in reasonable ways in our Canadian society. But we have to address the real issue, which is social issues that lead to gun violence, first and foremost.
If elected leader, will you invite previous candidates from leadership contests as well as, my question just moved, sorry. If elected leader, will you invite other leadership candidates from this contest or other to be part of shadow cabinet or volunteer their skills to the newly activated party?
Absolutely. You know, again, referring back to our 6-month plan, which is on our website, Keenan-Walcott.ca. One of the first things we want to do in order to, again, bring the party back to strong footing and also learn from the experience of others that have been there before us is meet with past leaders, meet with past leadership candidates, meet with past EDs, presidents, members of the board. We want to bring in as many people to the process of visioning the future of the Green Party of Canada as we can, so that we can build the strongest team that we can moving forward. You know, Anna and I have had much success in our lives because of our ability to build strong teams around us. And building strong teams is not just a question of finding, you know, excellent individuals to work with. It's about bringing people to the table and giving them the space to lead in their own areas of expertise. You know, we strongly believe in the concept of leading from behind. And what that means is that we work together to set a common vision for where the party in this case is going to go. And then we let the experts that we've surrounded ourselves with lead in their specific domain. And we do the work of highlighting their work, of raising them up, and in so doing, raising up the entirety of the party.
If you are elected leader, will you run in a by-election anywhere in Canada if such an opportunity presents itself?
If the opportunity presented itself and we did not already have a strong candidate in that riding, then yes, I would be open to running in any riding in the country. I obviously have a slight preference of running in my own riding, where I've been active for the past 8 years, but I also have a major barrier in my riding in the form of Mark Garneau, the astronaut. So my understanding is that he may be, you know, retiring in the near future, but probably not before the end of this term. So if a by-election were called as leader, I would run and represent the party in that riding and attempt to win my seat. Again, with the caveat that I would not displace a strong candidate that had already done the work in the community. Because again, I believe it's more important to elevate the strong voices that we already have within the party than to place myself ahead of them.
As leader or co-leader, what do you see as the most important first steps to encouraging like-mindedness in Parliament regarding climate action?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we have to meet people where they are. I've always found in communicating with folks is if you can listen well, if you can listen with an open heart and communicate with them with an open mind, you can find that common cause and that, let's call it a pressure point that you can push on to get them to see or to change their perspective. You know, we can't, not every conservative will want to agree that climate change is real necessarily. You know, the parties could probably come a long way from their previous position, but they're still, you know, Poilievre is still advocating for pushing aside environmental assessments and new mining projects and in, you know, LNG and these things. So they still have a long way to go. But I think if we can speak to the Conservatives and the Liberals and the NDP and show them that moving forward with bold climate action is actually in their interests as well, then we'll be able to make gains. It's an unfortunate strategic way of thinking about it, but it is necessary. We have to find ways to push forward our policies. We have to do the work of finding allies across the aisle in order to ensure that we can get our policies not only stolen, but implemented.
You mentioned an external review of the party structure. When would the report be released to the membership?
I think it would be released probably after the retreat. I think what would happen is we would call for this. First we have to propose at the council. Council has to agree. The leader cannot make decisions in isolation. So we make the proposal to council. We make the arguments as to why we think it's a good idea to do this. Assuming that they agree, the report happens. We go have this 5-day retreat with all the people I mentioned before and review it, get on the same footing, set a solid plan of how to move forward together, and then release not only the report that was done by the external evaluator, but a report of the actual retreat itself, so that we have full transparency and members are aware of how their donations are being spent to improve the party.
On that, is it possible for the Green Party of Canada to grow into a viable political party without a clean break from its recent past?
So I think I'm of the mind that we show, we don't tell, right? We don't need to tell the Canadian population that we've broken from our past. We can simply show them that we have by having organized EDAs, investing in them and making sure that they have the capacity to lead by example within their community, as I mentioned off the top. I think it is important, it's absolutely crucial that we do the work internally to get our house in order and resolve the internal conflicts that we have. But we don't need to go then announce to the world we've solved all of our problems because they're not going to believe us. We just need to work diligently to present a credible option to Canadians. And again, that's by leading by example within our communities. That's by investing in our EDAs to show them how to campaign properly. That's by choosing our candidates early in the process, maybe 1 to 2 years before an election, so that they can be present and persistently in their communities and showing leadership and doing door-to-door and becoming a known entity. I think the difference between us and other parties is simply that we've lacked the mobilization capacity and maybe some discipline, internally. I think we can work on that, but we don't need to announce that we've broken from the past conflicts. We simply need to show it through action.
How do you plan to make change in provincially controlled areas, such as healthcare?
Well, right now, as I mentioned before, the Nurses Association of Canada, as well as doctors around Canada, have been asking the federal government for more investment in hospitals, more federal transfers to provinces to do exactly that, invest in hiring more doctors, hiring more nurses, investing in education for these areas. I think what we can do is work with our provincial counterparts, make them understand that yes, health is a provincial jurisdiction, but we're in a crisis right now, and therefore something has to change. Doing it the old way is not working. Going towards a privatized healthcare system is not in the best interest of all Canadians. So we need to, again, sit down with our provincial counterparts, find common cause, and find a way to move forward together in investing in our healthcare system.
So you mentioned campaign strategy, but historically, head office has had an unusually frigid relationship with the leader's office and has often made decisions independently. How do you plan to bridge the gaps between staff, governance, and caucus?
Well, these entities need to work harmoniously together. I mentioned before that the fund and council have distinct but complementary mandates. It's the same with the caucus. It's the same with staff. We each have our role to play in ensuring that the Green Party of Canada is a strong and viable option for the Canadian electorate. Council's role is to ensure that regular governance processes happen, as well as that our MPs are supported through staff, right? Staff has a role in doing the day-to-day operations that make the party hum. And the fund is there to ensure that we're respecting Elections Canada financial regulations and that we're not going bankrupt. So what we need to do is just get on the same page about what each of our responsibilities are and make sure that we're working together as a team. We are a team. The Green Party of Canada, I view as a big team of thousands of members and thousands of teammates. We need to do better at working together in harmony as much as we can, finding common cause and pushing in the same direction, because where we run into issues is where we're pulling in separate directions. And so I think through clear communication, through clear understanding of what the mandate of each is and where the mandates of each end, then we can achieve the results that we need to achieve. And it's by building those positive relationships with one another.
Would you consider asking members to vote strategically for you, either you or Anna, to be able to compete most effectively with another candidate who is very well known across Canada?
The beauty of ranked ballot is that you don't need to vote strategically. You can vote with your heart. That's a big reason why we want to push the Canadian electoral system to be under like a proportional representation model. So what Anna and I are asking members to do is to place us 1 or 2 in whichever order you see fit, but to put us 1 and 2, Anna and I. And if you feel comfortable doing that, then we're confident that we'll be able to be the next leaders of the Green Party of Canada. It doesn't have to be more strategic than that. Vote with your heart. Vote for who you believe is best suited to lead our party into the next era.
How long have you known your running partner? What projects have you worked on together? And what did you learn about each other?
So Anna and I kind of met, I couldn't even tell you how long ago exactly because it was very informally. It was in the different Facebook groups. We often aligned on policy, on opinion. We started officially working together in February when we started talking about joining the race as co-leaders. And since then, we've worked on at least 1 VGM. I'm not sure if we worked on the first one together, but we certainly worked on the most recent VGM together, we both chaired a section or 2 of the VGM, as well as a couple of breakout rooms, actually. So yeah, what I've learned working with Anna is that she's an amazing teammate, that we see eye to eye on many issues. In fact, during the process of deciding whether or not we're going to run together, we kind of had a 2-week mutually vetting process where we found out that we align on multiple things. We've also had our disagreements, but those disagreements have made us stronger, I think, because we've been able to talk them through and come to common ground on how to move forward on them. So I very much look forward to embarking on this journey of co-leadership with Anna should we be elected on November 19th. And I think we can do great things for the party.
Do you feel that we should be happy to see our policies enacted by any party, or should we try to promote the GPC through its policies in order to obtain more votes and MPs?
Well, I think in theory, it would be nice if the policies that other parties steal were implemented. But what we're seeing is that's not happening. Other parties are taking our talking points and using them to gain electoral success and then putting them to the side. What we need to do is run strong campaigns and elect 12 MPs, gain official party status, and start affecting the balance of power within Parliament so that we ourselves can implement our policies. I think we can do a better job of shedding the spotlight on our amazing shadow cabinet, people who work very hard to do research and advance policies for the party. I think if we do that, we'll be able to get a bit more press time, a bit more visibility for our policies, and show the world that we own the most progressive environmental and social policies out there. I have a communications background. I've been working in communications now for, I think, the last 5 years. I want to put those communication skills to work for the Green Party of Canada and making sure that we're known to be the leaders that we are in the areas of bold climate action, proportional representation, and the well-being economy. And as well, international mobilizer, excellent communicator. Again, we need to take our skills, put them to work for our party, and elevate the voices that are already there, or experts that are already around, and make sure that the party is known to be the experts that we are.
How can you speak to animal rights and approve of sport hunting at the same time?
Well, we need to recognize that we can't go from 0 to 100 in our policies. I understand that seems contradictory, and maybe it is. I think though that we need to give Canadians the resources to understand that we need to add much more emphasis on animal rights policies in order to get the kind of sports hunting tendency down. There is, from what I understand, and even in communicating with Nat that I mentioned earlier, there is certain circumstances where hunting itself for subsistence is acceptable, even in a vegan concept, right? I think sports hunting again, should be something we look at abolishing perhaps. But in the short term, I think the way I understood the previous question was, gun rights or gun policy to make that more progressive. So that's where, I'm not ready to necessarily condemn sports hunting, but I do see it as something we need to look at phasing out long term. We can do sports shooting without necessarily harming animals, I think. But I'm open to discussion. I'm open to learning more. Gun advocacy is not something I'm an expert in. And animal rights advocacy is something that I'm learning through the help of advocates here in Quebec and throughout the country. So I'm all ears. As leader of the Green Party of Canada, I'm willing to advocate and ready to advocate for official party policies, and willing and ready to give groups the resources to make their policies official party policies.
What are the strategies and messages you and Anna would encourage to draw votes from other parties and from the large number of Canadians who don't vote?
I'd say that our policies and our communication strategy has already drawn a number of supporters from other parties. We've been able to convert a few federal NDPers. We've brought over a few liberals as well, who are progressives and feel like they're not able to advance progressive policy within the big old parties. I always like to say that all the other parties have reached their potential. They've reached their maximum of what they're willing to do on a progressive side. I think the Green Party still has a lot of potential to exploit and to reach. And so our communication will be largely the same. We are unapologetically left. We represent the modern left, and we're willing to bring in members of other parties to strengthen our democracy and to push for strong progressive policies to be implemented in Parliament. So I think giving them, and them being members of other parties that are progressives, the space to come in and push for policies that they believe in will be what attracts them either to cross the aisle or to join our party and help us push for strong environmental policies, bold climate action, and proportional representation.
Followed by a chilling reminder that Anime was heavily criticized for interacting politely with Erin O'Toole, with some going as far as to accuse her of being a closet conservative. How do you convince the party membership that collaboration across the aisle is the norm and not the exception?
Well, I would not, first of all, collaborate or speak necessarily politely with Pierre Poilievre, because in my view, he's someone who has courted hate groups and welcomed them and given them a platform on which to spread their message of hate. So that's not the first person I would go see. But I believe that there are members of the Conservative Party that consider themselves progressive conservatives. Maybe they have fiscal conservative tendencies, but are open to progressive policies. And so I would seek out those members in order to work with them to push forward our policy agenda. At the end of the day, nothing can be done in isolation within Parliament. We need, to have a majority of votes in order to implement our policies. And right now, the Green Party is not in a position to wield a majority of votes until we form government, which will be a pleasant change of circumstance. We absolutely need to find as many allies as we can, both within the Conservatives, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Bloc. So long as we can get that majority and push forward our policies, that is, the means that justifies the ends. But again, we're not going to go court the far right to pass a vote. We're going to find the progressives who align with our vision and move forward with them.
How will you plug the leaks of party issues to the press?
I think the issue of leaks is in large part due to the fact that people feel unheard within the party. I think we need to address that. We need to create a space where people feel free and able to communicate and have hard conversations while feeling heard, without feeling the need to run to the press to leak. That being said, if people are leaking for malicious reasons, then we have mechanisms within our bylaws and within our constitution to remove those people, at least from their position of power and knowledge that allows them to leak sensitive information to the press. I'm not saying that I would go straight to expulsion. I think if we're going to apply the principles of restorative justice, we need to first have that conversation, let the person take accountability, or people take accountability for their actions, and see where we can work to stop that behavior. But if they demonstrate a pattern of continued behavior, that brings disrepute to the party, that is detrimental to the party, then, as I said, we have to be strong enough as an entity to use the mechanisms that are under our control and remove them from a situation or positions wherein they can damage the party's reputation.
Et donc, une question en français. Quelle stratégie avez-vous pour rebâtir le financement du parti à court et long terme?
À court terme, ce qu'on aimerait faire, c'est justement, comme j'ai mentionné plus tôt, de s'allier avec des organismes à but non lucratif qui ont les mêmes priorités et politiques que nous. En ce faisant, on veut aussi encourager les ACE, donc les associations de circonscription électorale, de nous joindre à faire avancer ces enjeux de politique. Et on espère générer un certain intérêt, une certaine effervescence alentour de ces campagnes-là et en même temps demander à nos membres de faire des dons autour de ces enjeux-là, autour de ces campagnes de politique-là. Puis la stratégie requiert qu'on ne demande pas à nos membres de nous donner le maximum tout de suite. Non, c'est plutôt de demander à tous nos membres de nous donner un tout petit peu, 20 $, 30 $ à la fois. Si vous allez voir, encore une fois, sur notre site web, Keenan-Walcott.ca, notre plan de 6 mois, vous allez voir qu'en faisant des demandes de 20 ou de 30 $ à la fois, si on était capable d'atteindre 20 000 membres qui donnent 20 à 30 $ à la fois, on peut aller chercher entre 600 000 et 1,2 million de dollars par campagne. Donc, ça va être, encore une fois, de rebâtir la confiance des membres envers le parti, de leur donner une raison d'être fiers, d'être membre des Verts du Canada. Donc, de s'associer avec les organismes qui existent déjà, qui militent déjà dans le même sens que nous et de faire élever leur voix. Et quand on va être capable de justement rebâtir la confiance et la fierté d'être vert, à ce moment-là, on va être capable d'aller chercher plus de dons, puis plus de petits dons, dans le fond. Ce n'est pas les gros donateurs qu'on va aller chercher, puis s'il y en a qui veulent faire des gros dons, tant mieux et merci beaucoup. Mais c'est en allant chercher des petits dons à la fois, fréquemment, qu'on va être capable de rebâtir nos coffres.
So the party is structured as an NGO currently, not a political party. MPs don't have a meaningful place in the structure among other critical issues. How do we fix this?
Well, we have to review our structure a little bit. You know, I think before we go and make substantive changes to our party structure, we have to, again, as I mentioned off the top, get an assessment of where we're having mission drift, get an assessment of where we have overlapping mandates that is causing tension, and then start letting the party function as it should. Once we have that happening, we can see, okay, where can we adjust it to have the MPs have a more direct impact or a more involved role within the party. You know, we need to support our MPs. They're the people who are in Parliament pushing for our policies and getting them implemented. So we need to include them in certain decisions. You know, then again, we have to also avoid having mission drifts and having overlapping mandates. So again, just to clarify, the council, federal council, is there to make sure that democratic processes and governance happens. So what does that mean? That means regular meetings. That means minutes are published to members. That means we're having our regular AGM now annually. MPs are there to take party policies and advance them in the House of Commons. So we need to support them in that and make sure that we plug up the leaks, make sure that we are, you know, giving them resources from our shadow cabinet and having them work together. But there isn't necessarily a need for MPs to be involved in governance issues when everything is running properly. So we need to support our MPs, we need to support our federal council, we need our federal council and the fund to be working in harmony in order for our party to work properly. And I would say that, you know, most parties are formed as NGOs. We just have the vocation of needing to get people elected every 4 years. So we just need to make sure that our governance structures are working properly.
What actions do you intend to do to include Indigenous learning and leadership within the GPC?
Again, it comes to allowing the experts in the field speak for themselves. We want to elevate the voices of our Indigenous peoples advisory committee. Sorry, I had a little blanc mémoire there. We need to give them more of a voice. We need to give them the resources that they need to guide us in a true path of reconciliation, and to guide us in how we act in Parliament and what policies we advocate for and move forward, so that we can move towards reconciliation with our First Nations peoples. It's about leading from behind and giving the people who are experts in their area space to reach their full potential and take the place that they need within the party.
Is conservation about saving every animal, or is it about maintaining ecosystems?
I think conservation is about maintaining ecosystems. We need to have a healthy and balanced ecosystem if we're going to survive as a nation and as a planet altogether. Delete my nation statement, as a planet. We need to move away from extractivist tendencies that we currently have in our capitalist system, and move towards nature-based climate solutions. We need to learn from our First Nations brothers and sisters about how to live in harmony with the land and with our animal friends and with all creatures, rivers, mountains, and everything in our planet, because we only get one planet, and we need to take care of it. So yeah.
Can you tell us, what do you and Anna disagree on?
Well, I won't get into the specifics, but suffice to say that we had one or two disagreements about how to deal with some of the rules for this contest. The outcome of that disagreement was that we would advance our individual criticisms and our collective criticisms of the rules at the time, and then abide by the rules that were finalized and decided upon.
There seems to be an anti-war, anti-imperialism vacuum in Canadian politics today. Would the GPC be willing to pick up this mantle?
I think so, and I think a good number of our members have picked up the mantle. What is happening in Ukraine, to name the particular issue, is Russian imperialism, and I think the party has spoken out against Russian imperialism. We also have policies that call on us to review our participation in NATO, at the very least ensure that it's meeting the needs of Canadians in terms of defense and democracy. So I will say it here that I do agree with certain members of the party that NATO likely, as an entity and led by the US, likely provoked Russia over a number of years. But we cannot ignore the fact that Russia is the aggressor in this war. They are attempting, and have been doing so since 2008, 2014, excuse me, my dates aren't necessarily all aligned, but since the annexation of Crimea, they've been annexing territory that is of a sovereign nation. And that's an imperialist move, and we have to recognize this and we have to denounce it.
If the Green Party of Canada is seen as a left-wing party, how do you plan to avoid splitting the left vote, which would contribute to a conservative majority?
I think that we need to be stronger and united than other so-called leftist parties. I mean, we've seen what happened over the last few days with the BC NDP, which is directly tied in the same organization as the federal NDP. This is not a political party that believes in strong progressive policies. They denied access to a climate activist to run in their leadership race by claiming that the Green Party of BC was doing some kind of coup. We are the only strong progressive voice in Parliament, and we need to get our act together to show people that. Right now, the Green Party is not taken seriously because of the recent couple of years of turmoil, but also because traditionally we had been viewed as a single issue party. We need to do the work of showing that, yes, we are the party who has the strongest environmental policies, but also do the work of showing that environmental policies is intrinsically linked with social justice policies, and being champions of those, and being, unapologetically modern progressives and pushing forward those policies. So I think that if we can show Canadians that we are serious and we can put our stronger, better social and environmental policies forward, then there will be no vote splitting, because people will see that the Green Party of Canada is walking the talk. And that involves not just strong policies and not just showing up once every 4 years, but being active in communities across the country on a regular basis, and giving our EDAs and our members the tools to stand out and help push local initiatives forward. Greens lead by action.
How long have you been involved in the Green Party? What previous experience do you have in leadership positions?
I've been involved with the Green Party of Canada since 2019. I ran for the Green Party of Quebec in 2018. In 2010 and 2011, I was the Vice President of External Affairs and Sustainability for my faculty association at Concordia University, where it was my job to raise awareness about environmental issues. I ran 4 Green Weeks on different aspects of the environmental movement. We did air, wind, water, and soil awareness weeks. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what my involvement has been. And I've continued to champion and help other nonprofits here in Montreal and in Quebec move forward their initiatives as well. And I've done the work, and I continue to do the work of trying to elevate green EDAs in Quebec and trying to get them resourced, populated, I guess, with members and active, so that we can present a strong front and a strong policies to Canadians here in Quebec.
Despite the fact that we have policies on many subjects, it seems our MPs at the moment will not get an opportunity to speak in Parliament unless we only raise or contribute to topics which the general public are agitated about. Will you stress our policies about affordable housing, a guaranteed living basic income to lift people above the poverty line wherever they live, and support municipalities to get the funds they need to provide the services which the provinces do not seem to be funding, like education and healthcare?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have to understand there are only 2 MPs right now, 2 Green MPs in Parliament. So there is a limited amount of things that they can work on in a tangible way that gets results. But Mark Morris has already taken one step in achieving guaranteed livable income by getting the Canadian disability benefits passed unanimously. That is, 40% of the people living below the poverty line are people with disabilities. And now those people will have access once it passes the 3rd stage in committee, but we're confident it'll get implemented. Those people have access to a livable income. And from there we can build. So we absolutely need to advocate for, and Anna and I will be strong advocates of affordable housing, because it's absolutely something we need. We'll be strong advocates for healthcare investments. We'll be strong advocates for investing in our communities our municipalities, so that they can invest in more intercity, green intercity transportation, active transportation, and implementing climate policy at the local level. Because as we know, and as I know very well, having worked at the municipal level, that's where these policies have the most impact and are most directly felt, is right here in our neighborhoods. So yes, these are areas we will be strong on and advocate for and fight for in the general sense in our communications. And in Parliament, should we be able to elect 12 members, then we'll go hard on all those things right away, including proportional representation, which is a linchpin that holds all of those policies together. Until we're elected 12 MPs and achieve full party status, we will continue a strategy of focused gains so that we can, again, implement our policies for the Canadian public instead of just having them stolen and put on the shelf somewhere.
What is your opinion on not running 338 candidates and endorsing candidates from other parties in certain ridings if they are climate champions?
I'm of 2 minds. And this is an area where Anna and I have had lots of discussion, and then we've had lots of discussion with members on this as well. I think it's crucial, absolutely crucial, that we run 338 members or candidates across the country. Firstly, because it demonstrates our credibility. Recently in Quebec, the Quebec Liberal Party missed just 1 riding. They eventually had it fixed, but initially it looked like they were going to miss just 1, and they were ridiculed. It's essential that we demonstrate that we are a serious option, that we're a serious party, by striving to field 338 candidates across the country. Now, If there was a situation where a specific riding or two had made a deal with, let's say, the NDP, and both parties at the member level and at the grassroots level had agreed that one of the two parties would support the other, and we'd only field one candidate together, and they brought that proposal to Anna and I, we would consider it. But we do not want to commit in any way, shape, or form to doing strategic voting with the NDP in a position of weakness. Ideally, we already have 12 members and we're looking for the 13th, 14th, 15th, member of parliament. But we need to go at it from a position of strength. We need the NDP to be obviously on board with it. And it would not be a priority for us to make those strategic deals. Our priority would be field 338 candidates, run in the first election 60 to 100 high ambition campaigns, and get our official party status so that the Greens can implement the policies that we're known for.
Can you speak more to the issue of climate change and what you will focus on?
Perfect. I think we need to focus on moving towards renewable energies. I think that would be my priority, as leader, is to be bold enough to tax and regulate the fossil fuel industry and use those extra funds to invest in solar, wind, and geothermal energies across our country. Canada has an opportunity to be leaders on renewable energies. We need to do the research and development and investment to find new sources of renewable technology or improve the ones that we have and make them more resistant to climate change, to extreme weather. We cannot be living and investing in technologies of the past. We have to move forward, and we have to invest in renewable energies and protect our biodiversity.
So this next question is your last question, and then you will have a minute to close. And I'll speak again before that too. The Earth has limited resources. There are limits to economic growth. These limits have already been surpassed. That is the elephant in the room. How will you sell limited economic growth to the Canadian electorate?
And this is what we mean by thinking about what comes after capitalism, right? The capitalist mindset and the capitalist theory wants us to perpetually grow and perpetually gain profit and perpetually expand our businesses and perpetually extract. We need to make Canadians, and we may need to make the world understand that's not possible. I think we hit our overconsumption threshold by June or July every year, and then the rest of the year we're indebting ourselves and what resources we're able to use and have at our disposal. We need to look at options of degrowth. We need to look at options of more sustainable practices. Again, coming back to energy, we need to move away from extractivist models and go towards renewable energies. It's a conversation we have to get engaged in with Canadians. We have to see and envision what comes next. It's a long conversation that we have to have because, as I mentioned before, no policy can take us from 0 to 100. We'll get massive pushback. We'll get massive backlash. We need to work with Canadians. We need to meet them where they are in their understanding of how the world works and their understanding of their comfort levels and their needs, their basic needs, and work with them to show them, hey, we can still meet those levels while not killing ourselves and killing our planet. So I think that answers the question. I might have gotten a little off track.
Well, that was the last question. So a reminder, well, first a thank you for everyone who came tonight, Chad for being here to present, and a reminder that there is one more town hall tomorrow night of the final candidate. And then on Thursday, we'll also be having a town hall where I will talk about the reconnection tour I did and the vision that I heard from the members. So please come to those, and you have 1 minute to close.
So thank you very much, everyone, for being here tonight. Again, I think there's a lot of work that we need to do in our party. There's a lot of talking that we need to do with one another and difficult talks, but we're all in the same team here. And I think that Anna and I bring the skills of governance, conflict resolution, and policy knowledge to the table in order to take our party to the next level and get the necessary amount of MPs elected for us to have an impact in Canadian policy. You know, the time is now for Canadians to learn about Green Party policies. The time is now for Green Party policies and Green Party values to take a central stage in our Canadian political context. I am very excited at the opportunity to lead the party alongside Anna Keenan and do the work that we need to do internally and do the work that we need to do externally to show Canadians that we are a viable option. To start, we need to get our house in order. And that requires us to communicate with an open mind, listen with an open heart, and speak about achieving common ground together. And once we do that, there's nothing that can stop us. So I hope that I've convinced you of that this evening, and I hope to have your support on November 19th. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chad. Thank you, everyone that came tonight, and good night. Bonne soirée.